The rule always applies, as we sit here talking, and we're just running a little bit late because we're starting a little bit late, but if you feel like you need to get up and grab a snack or grab a bottle of water or something, just go ahead and do that, okay? And we'll just keep this a little bit informal. Tom and I had a fight, and who would go next, and you lost, I get to go next. One of the things that we know we do this, we do research, and then we try to take and bring you guys up to speed, and this is an opportunity for a commercial. Tonight I'm going to talk about free trade versus fair trade. Now, right back there on the left-hand side of the room, we got Fred Luter running for county commissioner, who also is a businessman of many, many years. Now, Fred, you could probably do a much better job on something like this than I can, and that's what we're looking for. There's a lot of topics and a lot of subjects that we need to take and get ourselves, informed on, because that's exactly what's happening in our country, in free trade, fair trade, NAFTA, all this other stuff is coming up. How do we take and respond to that? How do we tell our representatives and our senators how to vote? We need to know in order to take and tell them what to do. So there's a lot of subjects. Come on, if there's something that you're an expert in or have a lot of experience in, come on up here, take that bull by the horns and do your part and deliver this to our members. So that'd be great. Now I'll do the fair trade and free trade tonight, but you can take notes and it'll be okay. Actually, this subject is a vast subject, and you could probably take a couple of semesters in college, or you could even do your doctorate thesis on it if you wanted to. It's that vast. Tonight I'm just going to hit the highlights of what it is, so when people say, oh, fair trade is a better deal or free trade is a better deal, what do we know? How many people really think that fair trade is the way to go? So everybody thinks that free trade is the way to go? Is that what we're saying? Oh, we don't really know, right?
This is a good place for you to get shot.
Well, let me just mention this. The Tea Party groups, they advocate 3 principles. And they'll say this every time you hear them talk, or if you read any of their things, they say they stand for what? Constitutionally limited government, right? And then they'll say they stand for fiscal responsibility. And then the last thing they say, and they stand for free markets. What's a free market?
Unrestricted by the government.
Unrestricted by the government, but is that like anarchy? So let's talk about this a little bit. What makes a free market? Free markets are important. Number one, in order to have a free market, you have to have economic freedom. So let me just tell you, economic freedom is when a country enjoys economic freedom when its citizens are free and entitled to work, produce, consume, and invest in any way they please under the rule of law, with their freedom at once both protected and respected by the state. And the second part of a free market is free trade. Because without trade, what's the sense of having a free market, right? So, free trade, it should appeal to everyone, right? After all, it describes transaction between mutually willing parties. But if you have heard anything lately about free trade, it's probably been bad. Critics tell us that it's unfair for American workers and businesses. It hurts our economy, exploits poor workers in the developing world, and harms the environment. A recent poll revealed that some 60% of Americans think our economic woes are at least partly due to free trade. This public opinion encourages politicians to erect barriers to free trade in the name of something called fair trade. Despite what we're told, though, each one of these indictments against free trade is false. There may be no subject on which public opinion and reality are so far apart. If you look at the evidence, it's clear that American and foreign workers, our economy, and the environment are all better off to the degree that we enjoy free trade. Charges against free trade are like this. Well, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Or the United States is so rich because it's exploited the poor countries, and that's why they're so poor. These statements are absolutely false. And one of the reasons is because we look at trade, people will try to convince you that trade is a zero-sum game. Now, by a zero-sum game, what we mean is, let's say we're playing a baseball game. One team wins, one team loses. So, add them up, that's a zero-sum game. We're playing a chess game, right? Someone wins, someone loses, that's a zero-sum game. But trade is not a zero-sum game. Trade is a positive game or a win-win game. Let me give you an example. This is a good one. I need a haircut, right? So I go into a barber shop, and the price on the wall is $10. And the barber's standing there, and he's not doing anything. And I tell him I need a haircut. Now then, he's willing to take 25 or 30 minutes of his time and give me a haircut. I pay $10, I get a haircut. I'm happy, that's a win, right? He works 25 minutes, he gets the $10, he's happy, right? That's a win-win situation, that's free trade. What's wrong with that? I can't think of anything that's wrong with it. Except, you know.
Makes sense, that's why.
I still need one. But the benefits of free trade aren't just theoretical. As international trade has expanded over the last 30 years, income per person and the average life expectancy has gone up in most countries, including those that are poor compared to the U.S. The exceptions have been countries with extremely corrupt and despotic governments, or countries where a civil war has been in progress or something like that, but it's been the abnormal rather than the normal. As a matter of fact, in 1970, the world population was 3.7 billion people. The abject poverty rate, and that means people who are living on less than $1 a day, the abject poverty rate was 38%. In 1990, the world population was 5.3 billion, and the world poverty rate was down to 26%. There's only one thing that caused that to happen, and that is world free trade. Although it is tragic that there are still people languishing in poverty, things have not gotten worse overall, even in the poor parts of the world. The rich may have gotten richer, but the lives of billions of the poor have improved as well. In international trade, domestic laws still do much of the regulatory work. An economically free country doesn't protect, slip and burden itself with high barriers to trading with other countries. And contrary to stereotype, trade among nations is not a free-for-all. When countries and their businesses are free trading partners, they enter into all manner of contracts and agreements with each other, which are typically dubbed with acronyms such as NAFTA or WHO. None of these agreements are perfect, but since countries enter them freely, they are not abandoning their sovereignty to transitional governments, but rather agreeing to rules so that over the long haul, trade can benefit both parties. As a result of more than 6 decades of lowering barriers to free trade, the United States has become the central player in the global market, serving as principal consumer and producer of goods and services flowing around the world. Trade now accounts for 1/3 of the United States gross domestic product.